Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Capstone conference call. My name is Alan Kingsley. I'm one of the MBA advisors here at Post on the graduate team. And I'll be facilitating tonight. With me is Dr. Jim Loughran, program chair for the MBA. Dr. Prakash Menon and Dr. Wayne Ems are our instructors for the MBA Capstone. And they'll be talking to you a little bit tonight about what to expect in the class and where we are and what you can start thinking about and working on as we lead up to the start of the new term. I will also be here monitoring the chat. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them there. There'll be some time for Q&A when everything is over as well. But I say we move right into this thing. So, I am going to be recording, of course, so please be aware that this is going to be recorded. But I'm going to turn everything over to Dr. Loughran to get us started in our evening.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here, and I thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank the faculty for being here as well, and they'll interject on their experiences. And we do have Dr. Roberts here tonight. She's a new instructor for the Capstone for the in-seat course, and she'll be with us as well. So you have a lot of experience in the room tonight. And the first thing I want to do is congratulate you for getting to this point in your MBA journey. And you should be very proud of yourself. You're not at your goal yet, but you have certainly done a lot to be proud of. And I want you to know that you are going to be in a very small group of folks that have a graduate degree. And you may or may not know this. Perhaps your advisor told you this or you read this, but about 40% of the U.S. population has a undergraduate degree, and depending what state you're in, if you're on the coast, it'll be a little, higher. If you're in the Midwest South, it'll be lower. But only about 8 to 10% of the population has a graduate degree. So you should be very proud of your hard work getting to this point. And the Capstone course is really meant to allow you to apply what you've learned and take this knowledge and do something with it. And the highest level of Bloom's learning is creation. And you're going to be able to create several things. And we'll talk about those things as we go through tonight. And so the course is broken into four components. One is virtual teams. You'll spend a considerable amount of time working in teams, and some of you probably already feel stressed as soon as I tell you that. But I will say at the Capstone level, it is tends to be a very positive experience. And because students are at the end, they want to be part of that 8 to 10% to have the graduate degree, and they're extremely motivated. And I will say that we have a very high success rate. And so as we go through the course, you can say, boy, this is intimidating. This is a lot more involved than any other course that I've had. And I can't imagine we can get through it all in 8 minutes or 8 weeks. And we do. And we have a very, very high success rate. And so we don't get a lot of complaints about this course because students know it's the Capstone. They know it's going to be hard work, but they know it's doable. And we have professors that care, that want you to be successful. And so I can tell you, I've handpicked the professors, and so online here, and I feel really confident that you'll have the support that you need to be successful. And so as you think about this course, as I said, virtual teams, and you're going to be in these teams to work on a simulation. And these teams are more or less randomly selected. We do try to look at folks' concentrations to see if we can balance them. So we have some project management folks, some leadership folks, and some folks in the other concentrations as well, to try to balance if we can. Sometimes we have a class that tends to have more concentrations than others. But with that said, you're put into these teams and you'll be working on decisions to run a company. And this company is a virtual company. And what that means is that it's not real life. It's basically a simulation, but you're going to feel like you're running a company, and you're going to be making very important decisions, and you're going to be selling sensors. And these sensors are business to business, and you'll have competitors out there, and you'll be placed on a team, and you'll probably have somewhere around 2 to 3 to 4, depending on the size of the class, teams that you'll be on. You'll be on one of those teams, and there'll be 4 or so in the class. I think we average about 3 online. Sometimes there's more in seat. And you'll be working on that through the first several weeks of the class. And you're going to be doing rounds. And the rounds mean the decisions when they're going to be made. And these decisions revolve around the decisions that you would make if you were running the business, if you're a senior leader. And so think about those decisions if you were making sensors, which would be used in another company, what would be the decisions you would be making? And so it just like any other product, you'd be making decisions on who you're going to sell to and which market. And there's different segments of the market, the low end, high end, high tech, low tech, and so on. And so you'll be making important marketing decisions, and you remember the P's of marketing. So you're making decisions on who you're going to sell to, what price you're going to sell to, and so on. And then also you're going to be making production decisions, how much you're going to produce. And I'll put an asterisk onto it because production's the most important decisions that you can make, in a sense that if you make too many, you're going to absolutely make a devastating decisions on your financials, because if you have too much inventory, it will hurt your profitability by having all that on hand. So you got to make sure you're producing enough to sell, and you're not giving sales away, but not too much where you are going to hurt your profitability. And the number one reason that teams struggle is having too much. You're producing too much. And oftentimes the reason you can't sell is not necessarily you're producing too much. You have poor marketing. You don't have the right products for the right segments. You don't have them the right price, and the age of the product, and all the things that the folks, the companies, that you're selling to, how they make those decisions. And so you can think of it as just as you're running a business, and you're going to see reports that you're going to get, and you'll be able to evaluate those reports and make those important decisions. And all this information in the simulation, you'll be given an ID and a link as an announcement in your class when you get to the class, and it'll take you right there. And then you're going to spend the first week kind of learning how to navigate the simulation. You get a guidebook that is pretty in depth, and it is thick. And we don't expect you to memorize it, but we expect you to have it handy so you can learn how to navigate the simulation. And make sure you keep that handy with you as you're going on. This is how you learn. And we're going to give you time to learn. And then we're going to give you an actual practice round to work with your team. And you're going to communicate with your team and make decisions. And we're going to use the group discussion board to do that. We don't have traditional discussion boards in this class where we give you a question to answer. We don't have a textbook in this class. As I said, this is really an application class. So you're learning everything you've learned, you're now applying. And so you're going to work in the group discussion board, and you're going to communicate back and forth. And you're going to have different roles and responsibilities. And during the early part of the course, we ask you to develop I'll call it a contract, where you're going to decide whose roles are what and who's going to do what, when you're going to get things done. And you are given the dates of when these rounds are done, including the practice round. And then you'll make these, have this plan. of who's going to do what when, and you're going to communicate just like you were an executive team. And we said you have the group discussion board to do that, but most teams use other forms of communication. They usually have live meetings, and those live meetings can be Blackboard Collaborate. They can be your own personal Teams account if you have one, or Zoom, whatever the team decides. But whatever the team uses, everybody on a team has to have access and ability to access it. And you need to meet at times where everybody's available and can meet. And so it's important that you communicate all this ahead of time. The teams that communicate the most effectively tend to do the best in the simulation. And I will say that if you're worried about people taking, and not taking it seriously and allowing other people to do everything, there are peer reviews that are very important to the class. And if you get poor peer reviews from your team, it will affect you significantly. And the number one reason a student doesn't pass this course is poor peer reviews. That's why it said you're very motivated to be engaged. The other thing is, as I said, you work as a team the first several weeks of this course. And then when you get in towards the end of the course, you're going to be doing this individually. And so if you don't know the simulation and you relied on everybody, you're like, yeah, I don't care about poor peer reviews as long as I pass or whatever, you're going to be in big trouble when you try to do this simulation by yourself. And we see a high correlation between low peer review scores and low scores in the individual portion of the simulation. That portion is called a CompXM. You're doing the rounds by yourself, all in 1 week. And you're also taking an exam on the simulation, and that's all within the simulation. And so the whole point to this is that you're working as a team, you're learning the simulation, you're going to get very comfortable with it. You're going to do these rounds, you're going to see your score, you're going to make decisions, and you're going to be rated on how you communicate those decisions. So you're going to be doing reports to the instructor as a team. And so in the team portion, you're going to be evaluated on that. When you get into the CompXM portion of it, you are going to be evaluated on your own decisions, and you're going to be evaluated on that exam, and you get a score for both. And so the bottom line is you want to be a great team member. You want to learn the simulation. You want to make sure you follow this contract that you put together so you get great peer reviews. And you're going to get all the information you need to be able to be successful in that guidebook. And then you're going to do this individually as you after you finish the team portion. And so most students enjoy this. There's a lot of, work involved, but if you work as a team and you have different roles and responsibilities, many times, a lot of teams, and it's recommended by some instructors that you take different roles so you don't do the same thing every time, so you're more prepared to do the individual portion. That's a wise move. What also is a wise move is do not make decisions in a vacuum, meaning if your marketing person doesn't communicate to your production person, you don't understand the marketing plan, it's not likely to go well. And so you're going to have to think about that. There's an HR portion is in terms of how much overtime and production and capacity and how you use your folks and so on. So you're going to see the different roles. You're going to have a production, a finance, an HR, and marketing, and so on. And you could take those different roles, or as recommended by many, fluctuate those, change those roles up so you can be ready to do this individually. Talk about the decisions so you understand how those decisions are being made. And so the simulation is, as I said, a third party. You're given a link, you get to that information, all your password will be provided. If you have any questions about how to navigate the simulation, there's a number that you can contact that will allow you to get information directly from the simulation folks called Capstone, and they're available 9 to 9 Monday through Friday. They're also available on weekends online, so you can email them. I find them very responsive, and I find them great to work with, and that's why we do this with them, because we can count on them to give support to students. What we don't want you to do is send your email at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to your professor saying, I'm stuck, I don't know how to navigate this, and I'm lost, and I need you to help me immediately. Professors have within 24 hours to respond. They're not necessarily online when you are, but if you call Capstone, they can look at your email, they can look at your simulation, where you're at in real time, and they can actually look at it and help you through. They will never, ever tell you the right answer, whether you're on the exam or within a simulation. They will tell you what generally how to navigate and so on, but they're not going to tell you, hey, do this and this and this, and you're going to get a great profitability, and you're going to have awesome production numbers. That's not their role, nor is it the professors. The professors will just give you general feedback on what your strengths are and opportunities so far in the round. So they're going to look whether you have really good profitability, whether you had to get a loan, whether you're in the hole, whether your production's way off. They'll just give you some general feedback, but they're not going to tell you how to fix it. That's what your team's role is. And so it's just important for you to discuss those things as a team and work together and make those decisions. And then if you're stuck on how to do something in the, navigating in it, contact the Capstone folks. And as I said, they have a number and email. You can get a hold of them. I'm going to stop for a minute and go to the different professors and see if they have any additional comments about it. I'm going to start with Dr. Ems.
Thank you, Dr. Logren. You've covered just about all the points I have. I have a couple of things, and I just want to reiterate what Dr. Logren mentioned. He did mention the team member guide, and I think it's 36 pages, so it might not be something that you're going to want to print, but you should download it, and you should have it handy. It really does a marvelous job of detailing how to navigate the simulation. So it's a great tool to have. That would be something that I would think you would want to do right away. Skim through it. It'll help you have a much better understanding of how the simulation works. One of the things that I always mention to the students when they sign up on Sunday or Monday in the first week is to go into your team. You'll either be on the teams. There's Andrew and Baldwin if we only have 2 teams, depending on student numbers. Sometimes we have a 3rd team, which is Chester. So whichever one of those 3 teams you're on, I do recommend that you go in first thing right away as you're navigating through all the various components of the course to go into your team forum and just sort of do a quick post where you provide your email addresses and your phone numbers and when it's best for you to meet, because as Dr. Logren said, you will want to have some Zoom meetings or some Microsoft Team meetings or using WhatsApp, Collaborate, where you're going to want to meet. So, perhaps not everybody's on 9 to 5 jobs. Occasionally we have students that are going to be in different parts of the country. We may even have students. I had a student in my current class who's in Japan. So you'll want to try and figure out what's the best time and dates to have your meetings. So I would do that. And then just finally, to Dr. Logren's point on the peer reviews, one way to avoid peer reviews is if you're traveling, if you've booked a vacation to Jamaica for a week, and you're not going to be as consistent in your as often online as you might if you were home. Let your teammates know that you're going to be away and your availability is going to be a little bit less than normal. That way, you're not going to end up with a poor peer review from your team members. So other than that, Dr. Logren, you covered all the other points I had. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and I just want to emphasize a couple points. Our average size teams are usually 4 or 5 on a team. I will say, we do want the teams engaged with each other. So if you have to go away from business for a couple of days, that's totally understanding. We've had a student email us say they're taking a vacation to Hawaii for 3 weeks. That's not recommended while you take this course. This is your capstone course, so you have something going on, we want to make sure you are ready for this and you are able to engage. So we want to make sure there's a lot to this course. It is doable, but you can't get behind. And the second reason students don't do very well, other than bad peer reviews, is they get so far behind they can't catch up. And you're going to see that the course is very much built on each other. So, you can't miss 2 rounds and not know what the team did and think you're going to understand where the team's at or be able to do your individual portion. So think about that as well. But thank you, Dr. Ems. Those are very important points. Dr. Menon. Dr. Menon, are you there? I think you're on mute if you're there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Anyway, so I was saying most of the stuff was covered by both Dr. Logren and Dr. Ems. One thing I wanted to add was the simulation does provide very, very detailed reports once you complete. So that's one thing as a team you need to discuss and ensure that you're addressing all those points they mentioned in the report. Sometimes they say you have not met your margins and things like that. So that does give you a very detailed account of where you stand, and so helps you to improve upon the future rounds. So that's one thing I think it's very well done in the capstone simulations. That's all I had to add. Thanks.
Yeah, probably the most important report that we look at would be the Capstone the Courier Report. And this one gives you your profitability and those of the teams and all of the other teams, and also gives you the information regarding how much inventory you have for each product, the price compared to your competitors. There's lots of other reports, but that one is the one as a professor we spend a lot of time looking at when we provide you feedback. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. Dr. Roberts, I know you're new. Is there any questions you have or comments you want to make?
Sure. I'm actually driving, so I hope my call doesn't drop. But what I would encourage the students to do is to remember that this is your capstone project, and it is essential that you do a great job. Collaboration and teamwork. And the other thing I would stress is communication. Communicate with your team members. The other thing I'll say is always look at these meetings that you're putting together as appointments you're keeping with yourself. And if you don't keep these appointments, your insurance is going to charge you. So just go for it, keep your appointments, get a good start, and you'll be on your way.
Okay, thank you very much. The next thing I'm going to go into is the Capstone Project. So everything we just talked about is about the simulation. You think, oh, I think that's enough. Why do we have anything else? Well, this is the project. This is really allowing you to apply what you've learned and do it with something that you have passion for. And so this Capstone Project that is something you're going to be working on throughout the course from day one, throughout the 8 weeks. And you're allowed to pick your project, and it has to be a minimum of 20 pages when you're all said and done. But please don't freak out about, oh my goodness, I have the simulation and a 20-page paper. You're going to be doing this 20-page paper in drafts and about 5 pages at a time throughout, and you're going to get feedback from both the professor and your peers. I said we didn't have discussion boards, but that was not exactly true. I mean, there's not traditional discussion boards, but there's a few discussion boards in the class where you can get feedback from your peers on your project and how you're doing. And so the project can be really fall into 3 different groups. Number one, and the most common one for our online students, is what we call a proposal. And a proposal means that you have an idea to make something better, to improve it, to enhance it, to take advantage of an opportunity of some sort. And so I would say, gosh, in any given class, I think probably 90% of our students, maybe 85 to 90, pick this one because they're currently working for an organization and they have something that they can utilize. And so when you think about what is this idea, think about what you have a passion for. What do you care deeply about? It also has to tie to your concentration. So think about what your concentration is and how this idea can tie to it. So for example, if you have a concentration in your MBA for project management, what's a project that you could take on utilizing the resources and processes that you've learned in your project management classes to utilize and do something to make something better or take advantage of an opportunity? A lot of leadership students take on employee engagement. And employee engagement's a hot issue, or also employee retention, and looking at what leadership process could improve that. And so we've had students take on emotional intelligence or transformational leadership and developing a training program around that, and developing a project to train the managers of the organization on those skills that you learn in the program. We've also had a lot of students work on ways to improve production based on their project management skills. We've had marketing students focus on a plan around social media. We've had finance students look at ways to improve profitability in their organization. We've had students focus on production and increasing production in the organization. The other possibility that you could take on is a business plan, meaning that you could start your own business. If you're truly passionate about it, what is your dream? We've had folks from everything from microbreweries to karate studios to hair salons, you name it, we've had it. And as long as you can get your concentration in it, and mainly all our entrepreneur concentration students pick this, but you don't have to be. If you're in finance, we've had a lot of finance students focus on, as long as you're gonna focus on your P&L and how you're going to get capital investors and really be able to talk about your mission and vision and so on, that's the things that we accept in a business plan. Not a lot of students pick a business plan, but I think we're increasing the amount of students that we have for that. But it is something that you can utilize. The third option is one where, let's say you're currently don't want to use your company, or maybe you're currently not employed, or you're not employed in a job in the field you want to be in, but you do have an idea that would enhance any organization. So you could treat it as if you're a consultant and you have a plan to utilize this particular idea that you learned in the program. So it could be a social media plan that any organization, let's say, maybe you're focused on retail stores or restaurants or whatever you think your niche is, and you could develop a social media plan around that. That's not picked very much. I think it's picked more at main campus students, but online students like to pick their own company. But as you think about your ideas, what I want you to think about, number one, passion. Do not let someone else dictate this. Don't let your boss dictate it. Do what you care about. Now, granted, it would be great if it was something to apply in your job and you do have passion and you can make a difference and make your boss happy. That would be awesome. But don't pick something that you go to your boss, say, hey, I have this project and my capstone. What do you want me to do so I can get credit for it? We can tell when you don't have passion for it. We've also, I think all of the instructors have had students come to us and say, hey, will you pick a project for us, for me? Because I have no idea. We will never do that. We may help you get some ideas, think about your passion, your concentration, but passion is number one. Number two is it has to apply to your concentration. So whatever your concentration is, this business plan, proposal, topic, whatever the case is, it has to tie to your concentration. Thirdly, you have to be able to find resources for it. And so we don't want you to pick something that is so broad, so general, and you know nothing about the company, you've never worked there, and you think you're just going to get stuff off the internet. A few terms ago, we had a student pick Pepsi, and they didn't work for Pepsi. I didn't know really anything about the company, know anybody there, and they couldn't get the information they needed. But they said, boy, I'm passionate. And this particular student's passion was peppermint Pepsi. They believe peppermint Pepsi would be the most popular product. Now, I personally don't get that. Maybe a holiday thing, I don't know. But this student believed more than anything that peppermint Pepsi, but they had no information of whether they did any target marketing. They had no understanding of the current target markets. They didn't have the understanding of the different cultures. I mean, they didn't have all that information that Pepsi had. So we really want you to pick an organization that you can get access, whether that is one you work at, your family, even if you work part-time. Check with your supervisors and make sure you can get the information. So if you're doing something on retention, you better be, or engagement, you better be able to get those recent reports so you can get the data that you need. You know, and another component is you have to be able to have a financial component somewhere in this project. So whether that would be a cost benefit analysis on this idea that you have to implement it, whether it's a P&L for your new business, for capital investment, whatever the case is, you must. That's a non-negotiable. There has to be a quantitative / financial aspect to the project. And the last component that you must have is that you must think about the scope. You have to write a 20-page paper. So that scope needs to be around 20 pages. You don't want a topic that is so broad, so general, that you could write hundreds and hundreds of pages on it. You want it narrow enough that you can write a 20-page paper on this and have all the requirements, but you are not writing some sort of thesis. This is not a dissertation of hundreds of pages. This is a 20-page proposal, business plan, or product launch, or whatever the case is. But it has to be something that applies to those four. You will do a presentation on this. This presentation will be done as a upload file, YouTube video, and your professor will look it over. It'll be as if you are presenting to the organization or capital investors, whoever your stakeholders are. That's how this presentation will go. And as I said, it's 10 minutes. And bottom line, it's an applied principle, something you learned in the program that ties to your concentration, that can meet a 20-page paper, that you have resources available to you, that you can look at the data and be able to analyze, evaluate, and create this project. I'm going to stop on the Capstone Project and go to my professors and see if anything they want to add. Dr. Menon.
Thank you, Jim. I think, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, some kind of an echo. Yeah, basically we covered most of the stuff, and a couple of things I need to add is I've been doing this for quite a while now, and I've had hundreds of students go through this process, and it's always been very fascinating for me to be an instructor for this Capstone course. I get to meet a whole bunch of new students every 8 weeks, and also get engaged in the different projects they work on, and it's really very engaging for me to guide them through this process. So having said what the different types of projects you can pick on, and as Jim mentioned, basically you need to be guided by what you want to do and what you're passionate about. Those two things are very critical, as the guidance we provide as instructors is making sure that you follow the process, making sure that you follow the guidelines, and the also be in close touch with the rubrics for each of the portions that we cover during this capstone journey. So those things are critical, and we guide you through that process. In fact, I talk to most of my students pretty much through the 5th week every week, so that they're all up to date, and also making sure they're making progress in their projects. So it's been very, as I said, engaging for me, and all my students have also been that way. So as Jim had mentioned earlier, success rate is pretty high since both myself and Dr. Ems are engaged with the students. So we ensure that your progress is happening, although you're engaged as a team in the simulation part. The capstone also has a equal importance, and we make sure that you're guided in the process. And so we are always there to help you guys. So never feel overwhelmed or in any way concerned about this capstone journey. That's all I wanted. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Dr. Ems?
Yes. Thanks, Dr. Logren. Few things. As Dr. Logren mentioned, one of the most important things, obviously, is that you do have passion for the topic. You're going to be working on the project all 8 weeks. So if it's something that you really don't have passion for, it's probably going to make the 8 weeks seem like 18 weeks. So do have passion for the project. As Dr. Logren said, probably 85 to 90% of the students want to work on a project with regards to their own company. There's something that they feel is not right, or something that they feel could be done better. It could be the leadership style is not conducive to a good work environment. It could be something such as a technology update that would help the company. So you might want to work with your company and suggest an update to your computer system or some type of technology. Looking at ways that you can improve the way the company is being run, something that you think is maybe a pet peeve for you, and you're thinking, well, if we could only do this, everybody at work would be so much happier. So those are the types of things that when you're thinking about your project, that perhaps that might be something that you want to think about is what is the number one pet peeve that I would like to see improved. And I think that'll help you with your topic. I do recommend that probably by Wednesday or Thursday of week 1, that you send Dr. Menon and myself just a quick email saying, this is what I'm thinking of for my project. What are your thoughts? And that way we can tell you right away whether your project is looking good and will be approved, or perhaps there's some feedback that Dr. Menon and myself can provide you with a way to sort of make your project doable, whereas it might not have been doable the way you suggested, but we can probably figure out a way to help you to make it more doable. So that's something that I would strongly recommend that you do probably Wednesday or Thursday of the first week. Just a couple of things that I note from my experience with the capstone projects is quite often we'll provide feedback in weeks 2 or weeks 3 or weeks 4 that, this should be updated in your project, or, this needs to be corrected. We get the next week's submission and those corrections weren't done. So that's something. So make sure when you're getting your feedback that you do read it, take note of it, so that you know what changes need to be made. And one area that I find that students really seem to struggle with is starting, I believe, in week 2. It could be week 3, but I think it's week 2. When you're writing your project, it must be done in third person, not first person. So when we say third person, we mean Stephen believes this is and Stephen is the writer. Stephen believes that this is the best methodology for the company to be successful. Or she or he believes, she believes. That's using third person, and that's what's required. But in a lot of papers that I'm reading, it's I thought this was the best idea, or we think the company would be better off if we do this. So that's the papers need to be written in third person. If you're not really sure exactly what third person means, then I would suggest you can certainly call Dr. Menon and myself to get clarification, or you can simply go in and Google what is meant by third person. So that would be something that I would strongly recommend, that you understand the difference between first person and third person. And then finally, another area that I've noticed, not too often, but it happens the odd time, especially if you're working for a private company, and in week 4, you have to present financials. And depending on whether you're doing a proposal where you're trying to improve something at the company, or perhaps you're going to start up your own microbrewery or your own hair salon, and there you have to do financial statements, which might include an income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow, that you have access to the necessary financials within your company. On a couple of occasions, it's week 4 and the student sends me an email and says, Dr. Ems, my company won't give me the financials. So now what do we do? So as you're thinking about your project, and I think one other thing is you should have a mentor for your project. So if you're a manager at a company and you report to a vice president, or you report to a senior vice president, have that person as sort of your go-to person that can help you maybe get financials, or help you with some facts and figures that you need for your project that will enhance it and wow your readers. So make sure you have access to financials, and make sure that you have access to somebody senior to you that can help you get information that you might need to be successful with your project. I think that's all I had, Dr. Logan.
Yep, thank you very much. And just to be clear on that, it's very helpful to have that support internally. Not everybody will be able to do that. It's not a requirement, but it's certainly very helpful to have an internal. What we don't want you to do is just take stuff off the internet. This is not that class. This is a class where you need to be hands-on and have access to data. Dr. Roberts, anything you want to add?
Sure. Everything that was said is really important, it's really necessary, but I would also add that when you're passionate and intentional, once you've been able to identify that subject or that topic, the next thing you really need to do is to sit down and do an outline. Outline your thoughts, outline week by week, so you have this map that would keep you on task. And following it, you won't fall to the ground. Just keep on task. Just lay out your outline from beginning to end. You can send that over and get that reviewed, just so we know that you're doing the right thing, and then you can follow it week by week, day by day, and you should be fine.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the course, you'll be able to develop an outline, because you're going to see when you have milestones that need to be done, when your drafts are going to be done, so you'll be able to do that. I'm just going to finish up with the last component of the course, and then open it up for student questions. But and one of my favorite parts of the course, and we really call this as the MBA requirements, but probably if you ask me, my favorite part is the self-reflection, where students get to reflect on their experience in the MBA. What went well, what didn't go so well, what courses had the most impact on you, what you would do differently, and so on. And all of you have a story. And that story could be the first person in your family with a graduate degree or perhaps even a college education. Or it could be the adversity that you went through. You don't have to share things you don't want to share. But certainly, if you feel comfortable sharing, we've had people that have experienced deaths in their family while they've been in the MBA, lost a loved one. It was very hard. We've had students that faced incarceration early in their life and changed their life around. We've had people lose jobs, had serious health problems, and never thought they were going to ever finish. And those stories inspire us as professors to know that we make a difference in people's lives, but also for you to reflect how far you've come. And oftentimes we don't really get a chance to reflect on that. And so that's a video presentation that you upload and share your journey related to your accomplishments in the MBA. And then the very last piece is a Peregrine. I'm sorry, one of the pieces in the course is a Peregrine assessment, which is an assessment that is not assessment on you per se, it's assessment on our program. And so it's an exam. It's a national exam. Actually, it's an international, and universities from all over the world, their MBA students take this exam. And we do not grade you on how well you do an exam, but we use the results to better our program, to look at which courses we are a little lower on and what courses we're a little higher. So you're going to get some marketing questions. You're going to get some HR questions. You're going to get some questions on finance and so on. You may get questions on classes you never had. That's okay. Well, we know that. So sometimes all of us get emails from students like, I'm so disappointed on my score. We don't rate you on that. We're rating our program and we're looking, hey, are we improving here? How do we compare to other programs and similar schools and so on, so we can make adjustments as we continue to develop our program and make changes. And so that's called the Peregrine Assessment. You'll see that in the course. All right, I'm going to open up to student questions on the simulation, on the project, or anything else we cover.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
This is Mark. I'm sorry. I probably should have raised my hand. Sorry about that. I'll ask the first question. First of all, thank you for having us tonight. My question is regarding the project itself, the Capstone Project, and picking like our topic. My question is, would you recommend any resources that could potentially give us some ideas of directions that we can go, particularly for finance for me, but also with the other concentrations as well? Thank you.
Well, I can give you examples of what other students have done, but I think you really think about your passion. But as far as resources go, if you're thinking about a business plan, you might want to look at associations of businesses, whatever group that is. So if you're thinking about a microbrewery, there's associations. You can get a lot of data and resources. Most of our students use the post library to find resources. You can use your textbooks to get that topic and think about going back to think about your concentration courses. Think, man, what was something that really, I want to say, if I ever get that opportunity, I want to make sure I implement that in the class. So start with your topic and start researching the library and using the search in the library. I don't necessarily recommend general Google searches. I rather have you use our library, but if you're looking at maybe businesses, you might want to look at associations for those businesses, and those are really good starts. And that actually is a really good way to find a mentor, because we've had students, for example, want a microbrewery in a town that doesn't have one, but they find a microbrewery a couple hundred miles away and find somebody there that started their business, and they can give them some challenges and success and things that they needed to consider when they went into it. So we've had that before. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think there was another question as well.
There was, I'm so sorry, I'm at a play date, so the kids are in the background. I just had a quick question about the video presentation. Can you just go over it? I got a few of the steps, but can you just go over the things that are required in that really quick, please? Thank you.
I think you're referring to the video presentation for the capstone.
Yes.
If you could mute, that'd be great. I think that the capstone presentation is a 10-minute presentation, and it is on your project. So meaning that if you were going to present this to your leaders in your organization and you had 10 minutes to be able to highlight your key points, what would they be? So you take a look at your final paper, you put it into a PowerPoint, you bullet point it, you have some illustrations, charts, data to really get their attention. I think all the professors on this call would agree with me that pictures and graphs and illustrations speak more than words. So less words, more being able to visualize what you're talking about and having charts and numbers and bullet points, not paragraphs. And so you want to highlight the key points of your presentation and your final paper for 10 minutes. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Other questions?
We have one question in the chat. It's about where the recording is going to be posted again. Ange, there is a Academic Success YouTube page that I post things to the day after we hold these. So send me an email after this, and I will. I'll give you a link to that page.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
What's your email address to send the link to? Because I would like to listen to it again. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead. I'll go grab the YouTube page right now. I'll put it in the chat right here. That way everyone's got access to it.
Any other questions for us?
I do have one more. This is Mark again. I'm just curious, will the simulation be run through Harvard Business School? I'm just curious because I'm taking a course now where we're having a simulation on that, and I'm just wondering if this will prepare me for it.
No, this is through a company called Capstone, and they do universities all over the world, and that's the name of the simulation, is not from Harvard.
Thank you. I did recall you saying that before, but that makes more sense now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So I want to thank, it means a lot to me as the program chair that you took the time to be here tonight, because it shows to me that you are engaged and you care. Don't overwhelm yourself. We gave you some things to think about. Now reflect on them. Think about how you can be a great team member, and also think about how you can, get this project. There's no perfect project, but start with your passion and then think about the other things that I talked about tonight. I also want to thank the instructors for their input and thoughts this evening, for being here on their own time. It means a lot. And thank you for putting it together. And I wish all of you the very best. And this course will be here and done, and you're going to enjoy your summer and have a big party with your families when you're all said and done. So congratulations. Thank you. And have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having us.
Thanks, Dr. Ogren.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks all. And if there are any further questions, please feel free to reach out to Emily or myself. We'll be more than happy to pass them along and get you some answers.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.